What's going on, everybody? David Mitchell here.
And your lovely wife, Ellie Pink.
And welcome to Fans of Train, episode 25. Well, I am probably going to go up on a tangent of last week's video about the autonomous truck bullshit and why it's inefficient. And the reason why is because, one, the autonomous truck chain is going to be a failure. It's not going to work. It's not even efficient. There are so many things that make it ineffective that it's dumb. And I'm not even joking. I could go on and on about how ineffective it is anyway. So, yeah. That I'm not going to lie about. If you really want a good thing for the future of the United States rail system, go with trains. That's what I'm going to fucking say. Trains are the future. They always been, and they've been around, even though they've been around longer than cars, they're still the future of our country. And putting everything on a fucking electric truck is not the future. All it's going to do is set it back and make it a not a superpower like we used to be. I hate to say it, our peak as superpower was in the 50s. And when that Interstate Act came, that's when everything fell. I'm not going to lie. The Interstate Act was one of our worst decisions in U.S. history. Because now, it's going to take our generation and the generation after to partly to fix all the fuck-ups that the boomers made in Eisenhower. But, yeah. Let me see if Griff... probably sleeping. But, yeah. I'm not gonna lie, but the autonomous truck job, it's a bullshit and it's a grifter. You gotta love how they are trying to push this shit when it's really not the future. And I mean it. Like, it's a bunch of bull crap, and I mean bull crap. Oh, nope, not that meme. Alright, let's see who... right now... line, but I'm not gonna lie. Just shit, when you just think about it and realize, or you start fucking realizing that the people who are running electric trucks are total nincompoofs and idiots. But yeah. I know. Well, let me call Elizabeth, see if she's busy. But yeah. But I'm not gonna lie. Electric trucks are not the way of the future. They are total vaporware. Just like the Hyperloop. The Hyperloop is vaporware. We want something that really leads the way. It trains. It's not all that fucking bullshit that they've been trying to cram down our throat and make it look like the future when it's really not. Like, seriously. This shit, I didn't want you to faith palm because of how dumb it is. And thing is, the idiots are getting expired by it. Hey, look like Elizabeth is busy. But yeah. Let me call Ben and see. Speaking of that, we still got a train parked out here right by the track. So I might pull my scanner out. Which, ironically, I have that right behind me. There we go. But the thing is that you got to just think about stuff that is going on. Because if you don't, you're setting everything up for a failure. If y'all know what I mean. But just think about it. Our country would be a better place. And our economy would be way better. Let me try again. If we start focusing on our rail system. Speaking of that, sound like we got a train coming. But it's something that we got to think about for the future. If y'all know what I mean. But yeah. If we want to have a future for the future generation, we got to start focusing on rail transit and a lot of our stuff. Oh, didn't hear we had a cup. But it's something we got to be thinking about. Because if we don't do this, our country going to fall apart. Let's be honest. We're going to be a third world country. Everything is going to be bad. And no one is not going to be happy. It's going to be a bunch of miserable behind stuff because we did not set everything up. You know? And that's something that, I'll be honest, we got to focus on that. Let's see if she's busy. But yeah, but we got to focus on our rail transit. If we don't start doing that, it's gonna be the demise of our country. You know? It's gonna be the demise. Because we're focused on so much on the fucking automobile and that shit that we got our heads so much up our asses. It ain't even funny. Like, it's not even funny when you did think about it. Like, it's stuff that I'm going to bring up. Because if we don't start working on this stuff, we're going to be a complete failure to the world. And it's going to be bad news for our country. But yeah. But yeah. But Gina, we got to start focusing on our future. Let me try to get Rail Fan Nick on here, see if he busy. But if we want to have a future where our country is doing good and bright, we got to start looking towards rail. It cannot be freaking truck. It's something that we got to think about. Because if we don't, our country is going to be on the brink of collapse. Let's be honest. And that's something that some people won't get. And that I'm not going to lie about. Let's try to get our friend in here. But it's up that we got to start thinking about. And I mean start thinking about right now. Because if we don't, and we keep on letting the greedy radical car idiots do everything, it's going to be bad news for our community. And I mean it. Like, literally, you radicalized idiots are controlling and doing shit left and right. It's going to kill our country if we don't stop it. Like, the one thing I have a pet peeve about, but if we don't start standing up to the dingtards, they're going to take advantage. Little train stories. But if we don't stop this, it's going to be bad. And I mean bad. Let's see. But it's crazy. It's crazy when you're thinking about it. But yeah. Hope that's Zach. But we got to realize that our railroads are crucial. Because if we do not, it's going to be our demise. Like, literally, because look at our economy. It's technically in the shitter. It's seriously in the shitter. Because we want to go with freaking trucks. Alright, that's it, right? Trying to see who we can get on tonight. Alright, let's see who we can get on. Michael busy. Let's see who we can get on here, but you gotta think about it. Because if we don't stop it, it's gonna be bad for us. Because the autonomous truck, AI trucks, or like autonomous electric truck, it's a bullshit And it's up at the. I really don't think it's funny. Oh God, Will Smith got banned from the Emmys. Damn, I feel bad for him. All right, not trying to be sexist. If he just had ignored his wife and did not did that, this shit would have never happened. That I'm not gonna lie about. The thing about it. This stuff would have never happened if he did. Because I hate to say, the only reason he did it was because his wife. If he had not, he would have still. It was a double-edged sword. If I were him, I would just walk out. Just walk out, go sit somewhere and take a breather instead of just going up there and hitting him. But it did spark a meme, a new meme, let's be honest. Whole new meme, whole new team. But yeah. Oh boy. Well, that'll war crime. And I hope we'll get what coming to them. They just shot a missile at a passenger train in Ukraine. Disgusting. Bastards. If I can say. But yeah, I'll be honest. Autonomous electric trucks are a total waste of time. They're just a waste of time. Let me go, not on Discord, but on Facebook. See who is busy on there. Get them in chat. And one of them is German. Oh. Of course, one sorry, have a friend who looked like a freaking barb. I'm not gonna show it because it would get me demonetized, but I have a friend who freaking looked like a freaking Barbie wannabe. Oof, damn. But yeah, but let me get down to the chat. Come on. There we go. Let's check if my friend right here is busy. It probably daytime in an area because he live in Europe. Apparently, brought back here in the US, but the thing is that we got to start going back to rail. If our country wants to become better, we got to head back to rail. Heck, clean energy demand will probably be much better than, with gas, but yeah. But we really cocked up everything by going over the freaking cars. Just think about it. Like, we really cocked up on everything. We really put our country into shitter because we wanted to see what the car had. We got tricked by the freaking car drifters. But yeah. Let's see. But yeah. Seemed like everybody almost busy. Well, I did have started the live stream Friday night. But yeah. Or not earlier tonight. But got distracted. Oh, Val, look who won. Valley Poo.
What?
Look at the TV.
Jones! That's his good place! Whoa!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Oh my god, dude!
Oh.
Orlandon Castle!
Oh, that's funny.
Come on!
You were distracted and you did not even notice it until I hollered for you.
Yep, you hollered for me because I don't want to mute that. I don't want to unmute that. We have like copyright crap.
And yeah. But that was funny. That was that was some funny shit right there.
Oh, oh boy. Oh, Ty Gibbs. Oh, Ty Gibbs and Sam Mayer. Oh, they're fighting.
Are you? Oh,
they're getting physical.
What, the one who won?
No, they're not winning. Oh. Look at Ty Gibbs and Sam Mayer right there. Oh, yeah, they're pushing their butt. Oh, they're fighting, man. Whoa.
Security.
Damn.
Oh god.
They're both young. Come on. They're snuggling.
Young teenagers.
Yeah. Oh, Sam Smith is grumpy. That's her girlfriend. That's his girlfriend. Oh.
Let's see who joins.
Excuse me.
Because I'm trying to get as many people to read the.
Sorry, guys, we reacted so much.
Val reacted.
Oh, I'm so aggravated. Oh, her boyfriend, his girlfriend.
Emoji. Is it?
Oh, Jeremy Clements stopped in. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
Jeremy Clements from South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, one of our native people won.
And Jordan Anderson actually is just part-time, but Jeremy Clements is literally the best.
But yeah.
Underdogs. Jeremy Clements top 10. It's you. Woo-hoo. I never expected Ty Gibbs to fight with.
But it did crazy. No, I'm not going to call on that group. You got bumped.
I like Jeremy Clements. Jeremy Clements is just cool, right?
But this is what I'm going to say. We got to focus on our rail system. Our rail system, it's up, and we got to focus on. Hey, man, you there?
This is John Hoflick speaking.
Hey, you doing good, John?
Yeah, I'm doing really good.
Hey, welcome to the Fan of Train live stream.
Okay.
You remember the article I posted in the American Rail Club group about the autonomous electric trucks?
Yeah, I put a comment in there.
I know. I had to agree with you on that comment. I agreed with you on that because it's going to be a total failure. Am I right?
Well, the facts are, the physics are, you can't be running battery big rigs or fuel cell big rigs or buses or trains. It's not feasible.
Because you're going to suck up more energy and you're going to have to refuel more, you know?
No, you know Elon Musk?
Yes.
He built that, what they call his semi, the big rig.
Yes.
He has not yet run one of those big rigs as a test from Los Angeles, California to Seattle, Washington on I-5. He's not done that because it's not going to work.
Exactly.
It's already been published that it's already been, if you research it, it's already been online that he has, in order to go just a short distance, you need about 20,000 pounds of batteries, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you're taking up, what is that, 1/4 of your freight just to haul batteries, because let's say you take 80,000 pound big rig, a lot of these big rigs, their gross vehicle weight is 80,000 pounds. You know what gross vehicle weight is?
It heavy. I know that.
It's gross vehicle weight is the weight of the vehicle plus whatever you're putting in it, okay,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you're hauling, okay? Curb weight is just the weight of the vehicle. Gross vehicle weight is the total weight of the vehicle when you're hauling something. So if you put 20,000 pounds of lithium-ion batteries in there, you're just wasting. And then you have to do megawatt charging because that's megawatts.
Mm-hmm.
When you have that many batteries in there, you're charging in a megawatt capacity. Okay.
Yeah. Plus,
you need about 4 superchargers. I don't know if you're familiar with the Tesla superchargers, but my son has a Tesla. He looked here at a Tesla from LA. He drove 1,200 miles in his Tesla. Let's see, round trip. So you need about 4 superchargers to charge up a big rig.
mm-hmm.
And you're not going to get very far out of one charge for the amount of batteries you're hauling.
Exactly.
Here in California on the west coast, where do you live?
South Carolina. I live on the East Coast.
Yeah. Here we have a lot of big mountains, huge mountains and volcanoes and everything.
We don't get up into the mountain until we get toward Greenville. Like the mountains are inland for us.
Well, I've been to you know where Roanoke is?
Yep.
Roanoke, Virginia. I've been to Roanoke and I flew into Charlotte.
Mm-hmm. I know
And Roanoke has mountains, but those mountains compared to where I live are just like hills. They're not really big mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going over these big mountains we have here with the big rig, they're really, really high mountains. The nearest mountain, one of the closest mountains to where I live is over 14,000 feet. And then there's another one just on the east of me is 12,000 feet, more than 12,000.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you an idea of how high they are. Okay.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So
Like,
we have the government officials here that want to put in battery buses and zero emission, and they spent years, over 5 years, and a lot of money hiring consultants and trying to get money to purchase these. And they found out that the battery buses don't go anywhere, and then the big rigs, they don't make any motor coaches that run on fuel cell.
But Jane, that airplane need to go back to train. Am I right?
Well, what I'm working on right now is trying to get some catenary, electric wires for the electric railroad. I'm working on that right now.
Model Railroad?
No, it's owned by.
By the way, your dad and your brother were outside. During their,
I know. My wife in the room, but.
Yeah. No, the railroad is owned by Union Pacific, but they don't use it very much. So I want to see if they'll be interested in putting catenary on, because the new law in California is that they ban diesel buses. They can't have any more diesel buses here in California. And now they're banning diesel trains. So the next thing they have to ban are diesel big rigs. Okay, that's the next thing. It's not like back east, they don't. These other states,
Hey, well, Jane, back in 2018, 2019, they were voting on doing a like right rapid rail transit system here in Charlton that go from Charlton all the way up to Somerville. That got shot out of water because Carter, the bus company, got a monopoly here in Charlton, and they won and said that they were going to put a bus rapid transit system in instead. Which I hate them for that.
Yeah, I don't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me still? 1 minute. I'm here.
I can hear you now.
But you heard what I was saying about here in Charlton that we were planning to do a rapid rail transit system.
I'm sorry.
We were going
What city?
Charleston, South Carolina.
Oh, they want to do a rapid rail. Okay.
Like from downtown Charlton all the way up to Somerville, South Carolina. They
How far is that?
about a 40-minute drive from downtown Charlton to Somerville. A 40-minute drive.
How many miles?
So cold, David. I feel like.
Well, let me check. I was born and raised here in Charlton, so let me check on Google Maps because I used to live up at Somerville for a year, but I lived in Ravenel, South Carolina, and our places. But
does the Amtrak go near you?
Yeah.
Does Amtrak go near you?
Yeah, PO90 with the Palmetto and. All right.
How far is the nearest Amtrak station from you?
About 30 minutes. 30 minutes from here. All right,
Minutes doesn't tell me. Minutes doesn't tell me anything. I need to know the mileage.
All right, from downtown Charlton to Somerville, it's 22 miles.
So that's the closest Amtrak station.
Amtrak station from me about 20 miles.
Okay, that's quite a long ways.
Yeah, well, it actually not. Because
I can walk to the Amtrak station from where I live.
But there were both.
I live right next to the railroad. I watch the trains go by my house all the time.
Hey, I live right.
Amtrak trains. The Amtrak trains.
I live right by the train track too. We have Amtrak trains that go by my house. Like I can actually see the trains from my window. It did that. We don't have a station right on the track area I live in. You got to go into town to go to the station.
Is that the rail line running from Florida to Washington, D.C.?
Yep, where the auto train run.
Okay, good.
Auto train will run across the line.
Oh, I love soy sauce.
Okay.
But I live along the auto train route. You know where the auto train go by?
Well, it's supposed to go to Florida from like the Northeast corridor, right?
Yeah, from Washington D.C. It come during middle of the night between now and 12 o'clock. From when it coming from Florida, it will get here by now. But when it coming from Washington D.C. to Florida, it'll be here around 1 and 2 in the morning.
Okay.
It will sometimes come in late sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you have to get lucky to catch the auto train during the daytime here in my section. You have a better chance of having that happen down in Florida and up where it begins and where it ends at.
Okay.
But I lived here in Trenton my whole life, and the auto train is a big thing because it's one of the kind of train that only here on the East Coast. But hopefully we'll see more of that in a couple of years because they should try doing that from Chicago to Seattle. That could work. You know?
Yeah, well, the problem here on the West Coast is that I've posted it so many times on the American Rail Club is that Amtrak refuses to add any more trains since the Amtrak was created by President Nixon in 1971. Amtrak, even though they only have one train a day in each direction, has been sold out, especially between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely refuse to add any more trains. So if you want to get a transportation on a train, you're being denied the transportation.
Yep.
And that's to me is wrong. That's been the situation. While at the same time, on the Northeast corridor between Washington and New York City and Boston, they add 72 trains between Thanksgiving and Christmas. They're adding 72 trains,
Mm-hmm.
and you have 8 trains a day, 4 round trips between Washington and Florida. We only have 1 train on the West Coast. Coast
Mm-hmm.
Starlight runs from LA to Seattle, 1 train in each direction every day. It's just wrong.
I know. And Jane
And
is.
now that Biden gave the airlines $35 billion as grant money, free money, just gave it to them. They're running the airlines here now, which is kind of crazy. And they were charging $19 when they first started to fly 600 miles.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous, and they don't subsidize the Amtrak or the Greyhound like that.
I hate Jade.
So,
Jade, we need to crack down on airlines. Am I right?
you don't really have to worry about it, in my opinion, because with the high fuel prices, they'll go out of business.
You're right about that.
See, we're paying. We were paying. I put it on the website for the American Rail Club that we were paying $7.75 a gallon here in California, almost $8 a gallon. Okay, and right now it's gone down a little bit. It's about almost $7 a gallon.
Mm-hmm.
So the airlines have to pay big bucks for fuel. So they're not going to be able to sustain that even with the $35 billion. It's all going
Exactly.
to fuel.
Hey, the airline, they're going to have an...
Hello?
Hey, I'm still here. Yeah, do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did you hear what I said?
Yeah, I heard what he said.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the airlines because, first of all, they can't provide the service on the short haul flights that the train can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, high-speed trains work from 200 to 800 miles. That's the golden zone. Am I right?
Like in China, from Beijing to Shanghai.
And in Europe.
Yeah.
Heck, there are hardly no short-haul flights in Europe. Heck, they're non-existent.
Yeah.
Am I right?
What I mean is the airlines can't provide short-distance service like a train can. We have a distance from where I live to LA, which is about almost 600 miles, okay? And the airline doesn't serve all the cities in between where I live and LA, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to realize that the population of California is like more than Canada.
That is true.
And the Central Valley, I live in one end of the Central Valley, which extends from Redding, California, all the way down to Bakersfield, California. And it's about 500 miles long, Central Valley. And this Central Valley is like one big city, urban sprawl, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's why the high-speed rail is a natural thing, but the government's been blocked. I first got in, I'm 73 years old, okay? I've been around a while.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first got aware of high-speed rail in California was when I came back from living in Germany.
My grandma German.
I lived in Germany for a couple of years in Berlin, and then I came back to California, and that was 1977, and California has been talking about high-speed rail and making plans since 1978, 79, around that time. It's been half a century that California has been blocking high-speed rail.
No, The only
50
reason
years.
the only reasons it's been going on is because of how dominant car culture is in California.
Well, I've been complaining about this to everybody that will listen in the rail club and government officials, is that they're blocking private investment. Okay, this is my business is private investment, mainly overseas, which was mostly in Russia. But now that this devil of Putin has been killing people, they won't allow any contact, and they have to get rid of that guy so that private investment could go back to Russia. But here in California, it's almost as bad. The officials here are evil, just like in Arlington, Texas. They're blocking funding for high-speed rail. If the government officials would allow private investment in high-speed rail, it would have been built 40 years ago. Okay, because private investors are not going to tolerate the corruption of where their money's going. You understand what I'm talking about?
And I know I put it in. I put a comment in under one of the guys saying, if we get someone smart enough in there, they can actually get the person who run Arlington arrested, because what he's doing is possibly illegal. It possibly.
It is illegal, and I have been posting this for years on the American Rail Club.
And
all these people from Arlington or from Dallas get on there and start haranguing me because they say that their regulation requires every city that is provided the DART, Dallas Area Rapid Transit, or the Trinity Rail, which is the TRE, Trinity Rail Express. There's another one. They all say, well, they have to pay for it. Well, that is so bogus.
That is
we have all kinds of rail service here, and they don't require every city where the train goes through to provide funding.
If they want to know where their money really going, it's going to the car. They're total idiots.
Well, the thing what needs to be done is, and these people that are from Arlington, whether it's the city council or the mayor, or if it's a board of supervisors, like they have a county, that's Tarrant County, Texas. They have a board of supervisors. They are violating the federal law because you can't discriminate. You understand? If you're getting federal money, it's illegal to discriminate against how that's used. You can't say these black people over here, and I don't know if Arlington, the majority of people that live there are black, but if you're saying that and those seniors and those children and the disabled and the poor are being denied transportation, you know how big a city of 600,000 is? I mean, that's huge.
Heck, me and my wife, we're both autistic. I'll be honest. Me and my wife, we're both autistic, and I used to have a driver permit, but I had to give it up because of my eyesight. I failed the eye exam to get it renewed, so I had to give that up. And because we live out here in like 30 minutes from the city, we got to take a bus, and we only have like a small bus called County Link, with it connected to transit buses in downtown Toronto called Carta. And I hate to say it, everything would work better if we had Can you hear me now?
I hear you now. So you're riding on a bus in the other city.
Exactly.
I just retired from a few years ago from working in transit all my life. I owned my own transit system too, and the government forced me out of business because they were corrupt. They didn't want to comply with the law that said you had to use money for transit. And so when I started it, they didn't want it because that was putting pressure on them. So they arrested me. They tried to arrest me and put me in prison. So I got out of it because the people in prison here were getting the AIDS when they were in prison. So I decided not to go involved in that. So
we got a train coming.
I work for you know what paratransit is?
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
For years I worked in paratransit, which is transporting people with disabilities, and also in the regular transit agency that I work for in a huge city the size of Arlington. It's actually the East Bay of San Francisco Bay Area, where there's about maybe 5 million people living. I was highly trained, transporting disabled people around. You know what I mean? And so I always used to have to stay on a strict schedule and try to put in all people in wheelchairs. So anyway, I know what you're talking about, and this is what these people that are really ignorant people are dumb people that are blocking transit in Arlington, Texas, and not allowing them to connect to the Trinity Railway Express or the DART are in violation of federal law. They may not be in violation of their county or city law, but they're in violation of federal law. And any money that they get for highways or roads or anything could be put in jeopardy. Did you hear me?
Yep, I heard you. I'm still here, man.
You hear what I said?
Yes, I heard what you said. Can you hear me?
Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, I heard what you're saying.
Did you hear what I say about their funding could be put in jeopardy?
Yes, it can be.
All their highway and road money could be put in jeopardy if somebody reported that to the federal government, that they are blocking money for transit and discriminated against the seniors, the youth, disabled, the poor. They are discriminating against all those people and making it a hardship for them to ride these little minivans at $3 a trip or whatever it is. And give me a break. You have a city of more than 500,000 people, and they only have 10 of these vans.
I know.
When I was working in Oakland, California, you'd have 10 taxis, more than 10 taxis at one train station. Like the BART, the Bay Area Rapid Transit.
Oh, I
was in some of them. You'd have more than 10 taxis, maybe 20.
Our hope might be down with Brightline down in Florida. Brightline might be the key of knocking the idiot out of power. Am I right?
Well, what does Florida have to do with Texas?
Because people are going to see Brightline down in Florida and see how well it's doing, are going to say, hey, we need that, And
well, there's some dummy person that put that article that I posted. You can see the article I posted. They said they're gonna have the Brightline go 150 miles an hour. Somebody from Florida put that in a newspaper article or something. There's no diesel there's no diesel engine that can go 150 miles an hour hauling a train. I can tell you that right now.
For right now,
you can't have that Siemens train go 100. The maximum speed on the Siemens on their specification is 125 miles an hour. That's a maximum. Okay. You have a very limited range if you're going 125 miles an hour. Okay. There's a car. It's called that. What's it called? I don't know. There's this high-speed car. I forget the name of it. Yeah, because I'm getting kind of Alzheimer's, but. It goes about 250 miles an hour. I forget the name of that dang car.
A Bugatti?
And so the Bugatti, it's the Bugatti Tyrone, or how do they say it? Tyrone?
I believe the Tyrone.
Yeah, it's like a name like Tyrone, the Bugatti. So they took it over to Germany on a special highway because their roads are so smooth over there.
Yeah, and they have no...
You can't go high speed unless you have a very smooth road. So they took it over to this test place over in Germany and got it up to 250 miles an hour, I think it was, something like that. And it ran out of fuel within less than 5 miles. So that gives you an idea of the physics of when you're going high speed. You burn a lot of fuel. So the same thing applies to that locomotive from Siemens. You can't go 125 miles an hour and get anywhere without running out of diesel fuel, right? That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Well, hopefully...
And that's what a lot of these people at the American Rail Club, they don't understand. They think, oh, these diesel engines and these battery and fuel cell trains are like what you call a perpetual motion machine. It's not that way. You have to expend energy to go the higher your speed, the more energy you consume. If you just drove a car at 100 miles an hour, if your car could go that fast, you wouldn't get very far.
Heck,
So
If I will,
that's the way it is.
eventually I do see them transferring it and put an overhead catenary in. I do see that possibly happening in the future. Am I right?
Well, I already talked to the people at Siemens, the German company that's working on the Bright Line from Las Vegas to LA, Los Angeles.
Yep.
I already talked to a guy from there on the phone, and he said they're working on the catenary for the Bright Line through the desert between LA and Las Vegas. He said they're already working on that. So they're going to have electric. They want to have that to be true high speed. The only way you can get a train up to high speed is to have it run on electric power. And that's the only way. It's not. It can't. There's no. The only train the only diesel engine that's on the internet. They have. And I don't know if I posted it, but there was a Russian locomotive that it's on YouTube. That they did the world record with this Russian locomotive, and it went 163 miles an hour. Okay.
Their American locomotive actually broke that record, and it had a jet engine.
Well, I'm talking about diesel because you're not putting jet engines on trains, okay? Because they're going to burn people up.
True.
They're going to burn people up. They did have that one. I think the French. It was the French.
No, it was the Americans. It was us.
They put a couple of big jet engines on this thing, and it was. You know how jet engines throw flames out the back, right? You can't have a bunch of cars coupled to that without burning people up. Anyway, that was the way it was.
Now you did have the turbo liner. Those things could have done it. Like they could have hit 150 mile per hour. They could have.
I don't know about that
because they did record. They did
record.
Had
the turbo liner. They had the Amtrak had a turbo liner too, but the French had one too. They were looking on to.
Same with the Canadians.
Train, and then when the fuel crisis hit in '73,
they
decided to go to electric, which was a big, common sense thing to do.
Yeah, ironically, one of the turbo liner that
the Japanese hit a new record for high speed rail. Was the Chinese that were 350 kilometers per hour. Now the Japanese have come back on that with the Shinkansen. They're going to 360 kilometers.
Never beat the Japanese.
Now is not a big issue,
the thing with the Japanese because they'll always top you, and that's the thing. Oh, let me turn my camera on just to get it to work. The thing I'm going to bring up is that the TEE was a first thing with the TPE bull train. It was a turbo liner at first. Before the gas crash, and that thing did hit speeds up to 155 miles per hour.
Well, I haven't checked that. I don't know. I haven't looked into that. But I'll accept what you're saying.
And
but 155 is a lot slower than when I rode the TGV at 187. I rode the TGV from Paris to Dijon, which is heading towards the Swiss Alps. Heading towards Switzerland. And that's a very fat. That was the old one, which is in the picture.
Yeah, I see.
My picture that is on the Facebook picture, I was standing in front of it with my family.
Heck, they even sent some of those to Africa now. There's some in Africa. Am I right?
Yeah.
That
I don't know about the one that they built in the French built the one in Morocco.
Yes.
But that's the new model TGV. See that the one that they had before when I rode on it was not a EMU. You know the difference between an EMU. The one I rode on had a locomotive. The new TGV are EMU, which means they're like the
multiple,
like the ICE. You know the ICE.
Yeah.
And the Shinkansen from the beginning was very advanced. When they first built the first Shinkansen back in the 70s, which I rode on in the World's Fair in 1970 in Japan, the first Shinkansen were EMU. They were more advanced than anybody. And the EMU is where you have motors on every
every car of the train.
Every truck or bogey has an EMU on it. Every axle practically. So that's where there's a difference. And the first TGV that I rode on was it had a locomotive, but it still went fast. Okay, just like my wife and I rode on Eurostar from London to Paris round trip.
I know.
And, they were. I think I don't know if the older one was a locomotive or not. They have the new one now. It's made by Siemens.
I know.
But
I know for a fact if it wasn't for Eisenhower, but I'd say Eisenhower is one of our worst presidents because he was one who wrote the Interstate Act.
Yeah.
I'd say he was one of our worst presidents because he fell into the car trap.
Well, I'll tell you what. From the time that Eisenhower got the interstate highways started construction until the time that the interstate system was completed, about 65 and 70, right in that area. In California, the interstate was completed about 1965, and Eisenhower was in power up to about 1958, I think it was.
Yep.
But from that time, which is only like about 10 years, all the oil in Texas got burnt up. Texas used to be where all the oil and gas, where they produced all the oil. They
still find some oil. There's still some oil. It's just that you gotta get lucky.
Well, there's oil. There's oil around, but the oil companies are not pumping it. Okay, so that's their decision. But the thing about it is, within about a 10-year span of time, all the oil in the United States came from Texas mostly, and it was all burnt up within 10 years because we had all these big landlocked yachts with carburetors in them, So they just burnt. They were getting like 6 miles to a gallon, which was like less than a big rig, gets it on 80,000 pounds. So they got to get rid of all those. When the energy crisis hit in 73, people were burning and abandoning their cars. Okay, they didn't want those land yachts because they were so expensive to operate. As far as fuel mileage. And gas stations were going out of business because all these private gas stations had to buy their gas, which, if they had a truck pull up and fill up their tank, it would cost them like $50,000, so they couldn't afford it. So all the privately owned franchised gas stations were going down the tubes real fast.
And the thing is that it was all a monopoly, Well,
I don't know about it. You mean as far as the oil companies go?
Yes.
Well, they're getting massive subsidies because, first of all, they've spent trillions of dollars on all these oil wars, like in Iraq. And you see, the U.S. government, and along with the British, took over Iran by installing a puppet who was the Shah. They killed the freely elected leader, like they've done in many South American countries. They killed Mossadegh, who was freely elected, and put in the Shah so they could control all the oil in Iran. So if you want to know why the Iranians hate the U.S., that's the reason, because the United States was raping that country for their oil.
And eventually that came around and got up in our behind with that revolution that they had in the 1980s.
Yeah, well, that was payback for decades of having the Shah in there. For decades. And now the thing that was the person that was kind of an idiot was Bush the son and Bush the father, and who else? It started with Reagan. That they went and started this war in Iraq. And you know who controls Iraq right now? It's the Iranians. The Shiites. So, but my son was in that war, so I don't really, and he really got seriously injured over there, so I don't know. Gas attacks over there. They didn't put this on the news too much. They had gas attacks over there, and he got injured from that. So, and nobody knows about the war in Iraq because they keep it a secret pretty much. How many
True.
people were killed. They're complaining about how many people are being killed in Russia, in Ukraine right now by the Russians, but it's nothing compared to how many were killed in Iraq by the U.S. government.
That's true.
You're talking millions over in Iraq. You're talking hundreds of thousands here in Ukraine. And see, I was a big protester in the Vietnam War because I was being drafted. And I was out there fighting against the Vietnam War because I didn't think it was a just war. My wife is from Southeast Asia, by the way.
My wife, she's Filipino.
Yeah, so is mine.
Your wife Filipino too?
Yes, sir.
Ah, well.
We've been married about more than 35 years.
His wife is Filipino too.
Small world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, tell her she's from Tarlac.
Ah, well, his wife from Tarlac.
That's a province.
Yep.
I won't give the name of the town, but that's the province, okay?
Okay, I already knew it. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
She's from Tarlac.
I
won't tell you the name of the town, though.
My wife is from Cebu. Am I right?
David, I am from Manila.
Oh, Manila.
Period.
I'm talking about your home.
No, it is not my hometown. I was born and raised in Pasay City.
Ah, Pasay City. All right.
Yes, Mr. Mitchell.
All right. Didn't make it sore, but from Palm City.
And that's part of Manila.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I've been to the Philippines many times. The first time I was in the Philippines was in 1953.
Well,
that was right after that was pretty close after the war of when they fought the Japanese, and pretty much Manila was pretty much destroyed, and it wasn't destroyed by the Japanese; it was destroyed by MacArthur.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't destroyed by the Japanese; it was destroyed by MacArthur, because when MacArthur went in there, he just bombed the heck out of it with ships, with guns and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let you think it was the Japanese. But anyway, there's a lot of injustice going on, and I'm not going to live very long. But the thing is that it's, as far as passenger rail service in this country, it's a terrible situation. When I put that thing on the American Rail Club, that the Chinese built over 3,000 miles in less than 2 years of high-speed rail, in less than 3 years. I think it was 2 years and something.
Mm-hmm.
They built like 3,360 miles of high-speed rail in that length of time. And here we can't build even a few hundred miles of high-speed rail in 50 years.
Like in California, it's probably going to take another 10 years in California.
Yeah, well, it's not going to take more. I've been waiting 50 years, so I wouldn't consider it's ever going to happen until there needs to be a investigation into why it's being blocked and why they aren't permitting private investment when the governor said he wanted to encourage private investment. I just sent an email to the California High-Speed Rail Authority and asked them about
I'm sorry to interrupt
the status of private investment for high-speed rail. Okay, what is the status of that?
Well, it probably the airline and the car company behind it, because Demetrius did a video about it on his YouTube channel talking about how the airlines are funding against it, trying to fight it, because they know once high-speed rail come here to U.S., it's over for them.
Well, I don't really agree with that, because I don't think the airlines are powerful enough, and General Motors is heading out. It's going to be bankrupt again, even though they got bailed out once already.
My scanner about to die.
And, when they were given $50 billion by Obama and Bush. And I don't think the airlines and the auto companies have the ability to manipulate the high-speed rail. The one that's behind it are the big oil companies. That's who's really behind it.
Mm-hmm.
The General Motors is, if right now, and since Trump was been in there, they're having all these secret goings-on, meetings and everything, about how much money behind the scenes the government is giving to General Motors to keep them in business.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've been looking into their battery truck and all these battery cars, this one battery, they can't sell them because they don't know how to make them. They just blow up.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody can afford a pickup that costs over $100,000 for runs on battery.
Mm-hmm.
Forget that. So they're not. General Motors, I expect to be out of business shortly, and Ford is the only company left in this country that is the only U.S. company that's going to be around. And they're actually violating Ford and General Motors are actually violating federal law right now, because when a local government, or like a county or a city, buys their trucks or their cars for their police or their public works department, when they use Buy America money to do that, they're supposed to be 70% domestic content, which means 70% of that vehicle is supposed to be made in the USA, and it's not.
Exactly.
They're violating the law.
Ford act guilty too, They're guilty as all the other car companies,
What?
Ford, they're just act guilty. Am I right?
Guilty of what? Ford?
Yeah.
Well, right now, I found out, I did a little research on one vehicle, and I found out that they were actually getting their engines from Stellantis, which is from Europe. They weren't even, and they put on their website that they were manufactured by Ford, and they weren't. They were manufactured by some Peugeot over in France. They weren't manufactured by Ford. They took their engines from Peugeot in France and stuck them into their van called the Transit, and I found that out just this past week. So they were lying on their website. They're trying to cover up. Just like Dodge and Chrysler, most of their parts are made by Fiat.
The only thing that are American made still are trains. Am I right? And technically airplanes too, but
trains are airplane advocate. Your freight trains are, and some of the passenger trains that we have in California, I think they were made in Canada.
Well, I know some are made in California, like they got the Siemens plants over there.
Yeah, well, the Siemens, all they were making when they first started here a long time ago was streetcars, light rail.
And now look what they're making.
That's what they started out making, was the streetcars, and then they've transitioned over these locomotives. They actually make. You know what? I was working in the Bay Area one day, right at the train station in one of the cities. And here comes a train towing an electric locomotive. And I thought, wow, what are they doing towing this electric locomotive? With the pantograph on top. And they were actually made that over in Sacramento. And I guess they were shipping it back east to run on the Northeast Corridor.
Yes, they built it there. New Siemens Charger, what did back in 2014?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I don't know what it was doing going through the Bay Area, because it was heading in the wrong direction, but if they were going to haul it from Sacramento, they would just go from Sacramento over the Rockies and get to back east. But for some reason, they came to the Bay Area with that thing, and I don't know why. And I saw it, and I was thinking, wow, what's going on here? So they do make electric locomotives over here in Sacramento.
Also built the availability with an Amtrak new bullet train. That thing going to hit 170, 180.
I don't know if they're going to make that here in Sacramento or not.
They should be. New York, they're making that up in New York State.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be made up in New York State.
Alstom is in New York State. Alstom, the French.
Yeah. And
that's who's in New York State, is Alstom, the French.
Yeah, and they're one
French company. That's where they're making that
Amtrak
for the Northeast.
Yeah,
Amtrak,
the availability with the new bullet train that will replace the Acela.
That is in New York, up in New York.
That will replace the Acela.
Yeah, that's where they're making it, in New York.
And I was going to say earlier about the airlines. And the reason why they are behind it, because down in Florida, you ever heard of the group Not All Aboard Florida?
No, I've not heard it.
Well, back in 2014, when Florida was getting ready to start building Brightline, the group was going against him, and they got over $1 million, and get where all that $1 million came from. The retired CEO of American Airline, Chris Ramble. He was behind it. He actually paid $1 million to the anti-rail group to try to stop this from happening. And he actually admitted it on a website that if it was the Old West, they would have killed them, you know? The people who supported this. An airplane CEO, you know? And that a dead giveaway right there.
Well, I wouldn't disagree with that. But here in California, the most flights we have are between LA and San Francisco and LA and Seattle and Portland. Not so much Portland, but LA to Seattle. And LA to Seattle is not really short haul. That's like about 1,000 miles, but between LA and San Francisco, where you have this tremendous amount of traffic, is the high-speed rail would practically shut that down, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it would have shut the airline lines down there, because let's be honest, you're going to be waiting 2 hours at the airport, and driving there about 30 minutes to an hour, so you're already waiting 3 hours right there.
Well, you have to go through the TSA and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that will make it take longer. Add all that up, and rail would always win over short haul flights.
Yeah, and that's what all the people on the rail club don't understand, is that they need all our trains here, including all the long distance transcontinental trains that run from the West Coast to the East Coast, are double decker trains. You know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bi-level. All your Amtrak long distance are bi-level trains, except maybe some of these on the East Coast.
Yeah, the Palmetto and the Silver Meteor.
New York City with the bi-level because of the tunnels, the old tunnels. But going from the West Coast to the East Coast to Chicago and Texas and all these other states, they're all bi-level.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to run a high-speed rail in California, people on the ARC, the American Rail Club, have to understand that they have to run like those Alstom double-decker trains, because a single-level high-speed rail is going to be overwhelmed. You got to have double, like the one I posted on the Facebook. It has to be double bi-level in order to accommodate the amount of people that want to fly.
Well, New Jersey Transit does it.
Mr. Muskman and Larry Ellison were, when they were living in here in California, both of them. Larry Ellis is with what's the name of that company? I forget. The software company in Silicon Valley. They were both against the high-speed rail. They wanted to kill it.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted everybody to buy their electric vehicles, and it was insane. Especially the autonomous electric cars, which are ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. You know why they don't talk about the autonomous electric cars anymore? Because a lot of people have been killed over here.
Yep, and it ended up on the news.
Well, in the Bay Area around San Francisco, there were several people been killed, and so they kind of put the kibosh on the autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't hear about that too much anymore.
Exactly.
And that's why I posted on when I commented on your post about the trains that guy made the article about the autonomous trucks. It's funny. The autonomous big rigs you posted.
Yep.
Just the other day.
Yeah, I called it out. I called it out. I read it and I laughed at it and at it saying these people are just dumb, and I posted it on there see what everybody else think, see who else agree with me.
How is an autonomous truck gonna recharge its batteries? I could see if it was a diesel autonomous, but I don't see how a battery autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
What are they gonna do? Is it gonna drive in and somebody gonna charge the batteries?
Yeah, plus you got to think about cyber attack and hackers. A hacker can see that and try to hack the crap out of, and you could say goodbye to all your load,
Yeah, you can do anything to sabotage that. You can throw off my son we were driving the Tesla, yesterday, and it has a tracking in there on the Tesla where it tracks, it tracks the road.
Mm-hmm.
And it was getting confused because the road, we have a dirt road, we have a gravel road that runs to our property.
Mm-hmm.
And it couldn't figure out very well where the edge of the road was. It wasn't like a street, and so it was having trouble figuring that out. So anyway, that's that.
And Jane is that Jane, they're just failures. They're just trying to make it all up where they can rake in the money and screw everybody else up,
On what? What was you talking about?
About the electric trucks and stuff and the autonomous stuff.
Well, the thing about Elon Musk has not said a word about his electric big rig, okay, or his pickup, okay, because there's several manufacturers that have liable themselves to be prosecuted by the Securities and the Securities Exchange Commission, the SEC, because they ask for people's money to invest in their vehicles, like the guy from Nikola, who he could have been in prison, like the guy that had 2 lifetimes, 150 years life, the guy that did the pyramid scheme, his name was Bernie Madoff.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy from Nikola was doing, and then there's another fella from the Atlas pickup who was doing the same thing. They were asking for billions of dollars of people's money, and they didn't even produce or manufacture a single vehicle yet. Not a single one.
That's
they hadn't even made one yet. And the same thing for Elon Musk. This guy has said that he's going to start selling a pickup and big rigs that are run on batteries. But what has he done? Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't run a single big rig or a single pickup that I can see that's running down the highway, as far as I'm concerned. And at the same time, they're telling people, well, you give us a deposit, or you'll give us, you invest in our company. Well, that's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
You can end up in prison for that. If somebody, I haven't reported them, but if somebody reported them to the SEC, which they're aware of this, these guys would be going to prison, like Bernie Madoff in New York City, when he stole how many billions of dollars from investors on a pyramid scheme. And this is like a pyramid scheme, it's kind of similar to a pyramid where you ask for people's money based upon false claims. False. Okay?
And the thing is that these people have been getting away with it for years. Like, the thing is that the big oil companies have been getting away with it. Heck, back in the 70s and 80s, they killed off for high-speed rails that were supposed to be playing in Texas. They killed that off.
Well, there's what's been going on forever with the oil companies, and I've called the county weights and measures about this, but they won't talk about it. They don't want to talk about it. Is that you have 3 grades of gasoline. You have regular, then you have a mid-grade, and then you have premium, right? Mm-hmm. You have three grades based upon octane on your gas, okay? And they charge different prices for each grade of gasoline. But here in California, we have a very the regulations tell the oil companies that they have to put a certain amount of like alcohol in the fuel, ethanol in the fuel. And ethanol is like 100% octane, over 100%. Octane doesn't have any reference to the amount of energy like BTUs. It's only the ability to keep it from knocking. So when you put a high octane additive into the gasoline, it cuts down your energy content. So the oil companies are making more money selling a gallon of gasoline because you go like 20% less distance on a gallon when it has ethanol in it, because the energy content is less than the petroleum-based, if it was pure oil-based gasoline. You understand? Mm-hmm. So they've been doing this for a long time, the oil companies.
And getting away with it.
And they've been putting alcohol in there since the 1970s. and it's been ripping people off here under the guise of less pollution, but it's not it's causing more pollution because you have to burn more gas to go the same distance as if you didn't have the ethanol in it. Okay? So there's a big criminal, dishonest ripoff by the oil companies, but the government officials won't do a dang thing about it. They just ignore it. When I asked the county weights and measures about it, they didn't even act like they knew what I was talking about.
Because the oil, they got their hand in the oil company pockets.
Yeah, it's just like you were mentioning about the airlines. It came out that the city of Oakland was, this is when we had the energy crisis about 6 or 7 years ago. We had an energy crisis then. And the oil companies were really hurting because the aviation fuel price went up quite a bit. And there was a lot of airlines that were going out of business. And it came out that the city of Oakland was subsidizing the airline fare. The city of Oakland was subsidizing the airline fuel costs, okay? In other words, they were taking over the contract for the airlines to purchase their fuel.
And
so you want to know how the government is involved in the airline fuel purchases, So that's that.
And saying it people think it was the airplane and the car that almost killed off and made railroad partner rail unpopular in the U.S. It was not that. It was our government. Our government was the reason why, because when they did the Interstate Act, they took all the money from the railroad and gave it to their competition, to the highways and airlines. And the railroads, they were heavily restricted. Like, the railroads were heavily restricted.
Well, this is what kind of bothers me. There's certain people on the American Rail Club that say that you can't, even everybody would fly on airlines to go across the United States. But if you look at China, they have the distance from Shanghai to Beijing is like what? I think it's like 800 miles or 900 miles. And it only takes 4 hours and 18 minutes to get from Shanghai to Beijing on their train that goes 350 kilometers an hour. So if you equated that to the United States, that you could go 800 or 900 miles across the United States in 4 hours and 18 minutes or whatever it is. Heck, going from New York City to San Francisco or LA would be nothing. You'd only be on there for 12 hours.
Yep, that would be a 12 to probably 14-hour ride.
Yeah, but still, it's you're not getting a lot of people that are going to go the full distance. You're going to get a lot of people that are go to Denver or Chicago, or even like in Iowa, other places that the rail line runs through. I've taken the train across the United States and all over the United States quite a bit, and to go from Chicago to San Francisco through Nebraska and Wyoming in the wintertime. I don't know if you ever been up in Nebraska, or you're
never been,
because it doesn't get that cold. But you go up into Nebraska and you go up into Wyoming and North Dakota in the wintertime, and man, you're not going anywhere on the highway. And you're in a storm. You know what I mean? So the way you want to travel in the wintertime is by train. You don't want to get on the highway when it's ice and snow like that.
Yeah, and you'll have constant delays with planes too.
Yeah, that's what bothers me. Whenever people are stuck in an airport for 3 days, if they would just, I put this on the American Rail Club, get some buses over to the airport and have them take people to the train station. By the time that they got on the train, they'd be home. Even if they have to go 1,000 miles, they'd be home because they're sitting in the airport for 2 or 3 days, can't go anywhere.
Exactly.
Like last winter, right?
Yeah, like a couple winter plus with the pandemic too.
Yeah, well, that's one thing the train can do that nobody else can do. The train can totally isolate you if you get a roomette.
And
you don't have to be around any other passengers if you can afford a room at.
yeah, and in a plane, you're cramped in there like sardines.
Yeah. But I don't agree with the fact that high-speed rail can work all across the United States because the Chinese are building 70,000 kilometers of high-speed rail all over China, and that's like, close to 40,000 miles or something of high-speed rail.
Mm-hmm.
How many times across the United States is 40,000 miles? About 20 times.
And the most sickening thing is we are banning rail line left and right, and we're putting a freaking bike and walking trail over them like stupid idiots we are, you know?
Well, the thing is that what they want to do here in where I live is the government. There's the people in charge of transportation. They want to force everybody to ride diesel buses. Okay, which 70 mile an hour, which is our speed limit. They want everybody to ride buses. They don't want them to ride trains that go at least 100 miles an hour. You know, they don't want it. They don't want that. And nobody wants to ride a bus for 5 hours to go 165 miles to take 5 hours.
Exactly.
If you had a train that could do 100 or 110 miles an hour, it doesn't have to be electric. It could be diesel electric, you know, that it could go that fast. But if it was electric, you'd get there a lot faster, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the main reason people don't want to ride buses around here is because they're so slow.
And
they're uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable compared to a train. You know that.
All right. I'm not trying to be offensive, but mostly the people who are in control of the Senate and people around there are the boomer or older people. Not trying to be offensive, man. I'm talking. You know what boomer is.
Yeah.
I'm talking about some of the older people. I know you're in your 70s, but I'm talking about everybody else.
The people that are in control around here where I live are not boomers. They're younger and they're Republican. They're not. I'm a boomer. I was born after World War II.
My grandma was born after.
Called them a boomer because there was a big jump in the birth rate when all the military people came back from World War II, so they had a lot of babies.
Mm-hmm.
But I am a boomer, but I don't see most of the people my age aren't around. They're all dead. Okay.
I know it mostly them getting influenced by the the NIMBYs, the not in my backyard type of people. Like they got influenced by those people because let's be honest, California got a whole bunch of not in my backyard people.
Well, I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. It's just that you have the people that are in charge of, like, for example, the California High-Speed Rail Authority and the governor. Even though they're Democrat, they are blocking the high-speed rail. And I know this for a fact because I've dealt with these people in their offices and stuff. Mm-hmm. They are afraid because the oil companies have so total control over them, and they may feel threatened. I don't know if they've been threatened with death squads or whatever they've been threatened with to keep their mouth shut and toe the line as far as blocking any passenger rail service here in California. As far as intercity passenger rail, I want to make that clear. Well, they're blocking intercity passenger rail, and they've been doing this for a long, long time. I have a lot of experience in this. I deal with
the truth is
all my life.
The
government officials that I deal with are very young. They're not old people.
Well, the truth is, the oil company, they're actually slowly losing power, They're slowly losing power.
They've lost a lot of power, and the thing that's doing it is, like I said, is the zero emission mandates that are coming through.
And are generating.
There's one thing I've learned in all my life, and I've been fighting government for most of my life since I was in my 20s, is that when you get one government agency fighting another government agency, they don't like that. That's really bad for them, and it's helpful for you. So, like, for example, like I said, Arlington, Texas, if you have one government group in the city of Arlington that is trying to block rail service to the city of Arlington, and then you get the federal government in there to fight that city, they don't have a leg to stand on if the U.S. Department of Transportation came in there with their lawyers and took legal action against them, or Tarrant County, or even the state of Texas, because federal money flows from the federal government in Washington through the state to the county to the cities. That's how it goes. Okay. And it stops at whatever level they want. If they wanted to build a highway in Texas, the money would go directly from Washington to the state. It wouldn't go to the counties necessarily. But if it was a local road in the county would get the money, right? And if it was in the city, the city would get the money. But there's a chain of where the money flows. So if you wanted to fight these corrupt officials in Arlington, just go to the federal government and tell them to stop the money. Cut it off, because they're violating civil rights. And it's so easy to get lawyers for civil rights, in my opinion.
Heck, and find dirty stuff that they're doing, like stuff that would be scandalous. You know, stuff that would end up on the news. Like, find out and use that against them. You know, force them to step down.
Well, they have this bogus law where every city that the rail line, whether it's the DART or the Trinity Rail Express, has to pay their share of that section of that rail line that goes through their city. If they want the train to stop, they have to pay for it, even though the rail runs through their city or near their city. The Trinity Rail Express runs right on the edge of their city limit of Arlington, and they could put a train station in there. Even though it's already operating and being paid for, they refuse to stop. That is a gross violation of denying people the transportation. Just like the Coast Starlight, you know, if you're refusing to allow more trains, you're denying it. And this is how desperate the oil companies are getting, is they're doing everything they can do to sabotage rail. You see, if I go from my town, my train, to LA, I have to ride, if I wanted to go down the Central Valley, I have to ride 2 trains and 2 buses. I have to get on a bus or a train to get down to Sacramento, and then transfer to another bus and get on another train in Stockton, then get on another bus in Bakersfield to get to LA. And, you know, instead of having one train, one seat to ride all the way from my town, which is 600 miles north of LA, they want you to get off the train like 3 times, get on buses. It was a deliberate plan to sabotage people wanting to encourage people ridership. You understand? So that's the way it's been going on. In fact, there was at one point there where you couldn't even get onto the San Joaquin trains that go, because they had no connection between Sacramento and, see, the San Joaquins go from Oakland and San Jose over to Stockton, and they cut down towards Bakersfield that way.
It was not until that earthquake back in the 1990s that changed that. When that earthquake you remember that earthquake that happened in the 1990s?
Oh, we've had several earthquakes. Which one?
One that happened in 1994.
I don't know about that one. I know about the 89 one, the Loma Prieta.
Yeah, I know one of the earthquake is the reason why Amtrak trains actually go out that far now, and you know, the air transit system there too.
I don't think earthquakes ever affected train service, actually. Not really. The only thing that it did was they tore down the freeway in Oakland that got knocked down. It was a double-decker freeway, and then they built a new freeway in a different location and ripped out about several miles of railroad, including the beautiful train station they had, just to put in a 14-lane highway. I put that on the ARC Facebook too. That they were saying, well, you can't take over eminent domain to build up more rail line there. And I said, well, they did it with the highways. They ripped out all the rail line. They had a huge rail yard over there in Oakland, and they ripped it all out and put in a 14-lane highway right through the rail yard. And then they had a beautiful train station, and they abandoned that, and it's practically destroyed.
That there in itself should have been a federal crime. That should have been a federal crime right there.
Well, it's interesting that all these people talk about how the railroads, like Union Pacific, don't want to have anybody use the railroad. But here, in this case, they didn't put up any fight that I heard of to stop the state from taking over all their property and putting in a highway across it. I didn't hear a word about that. Not a word. So the railroad, and also, by the way, right here, they're doing a study about running some more trains up near where I live to Chico from Sacramento. And the Union Pacific won't talk to me one iota. The people that are supposed to be in charge of it here, you know what a PIO, Public Information Officer, is?
Yeah.
Yeah, their PIO, he absolutely refuses to return my calls from Union Pacific. So, they're in cahoots with whatever shenanigans are going on. The railroads are kind of in the pocket, in my opinion, of the oil companies, because why are they running diesel locomotives? It doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And why we had this supply chain crisis. It's very strange that while this supply chain crisis was going on, there's no trains running. No piggyback, no double stack. And my son said, well, he lives down in L.A., so down by L.A., he said that the port down there was like hundreds of ships just sitting there because he said that nobody was working. So I could understand that part of it, where he said nobody was working. The longshoremen, not working. So I didn't know that till my son just mentioned it. That nobody was unloading the ships because they didn't want to. With this virus, nobody wants to work, right?
Right. Nobody
wants to work, so we have a problem where they're not unloading the ships. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another thing that I'm trying to get this other railroad along from Eureka, California, down to near San Francisco, repaired and running, because Eureka officials told me that they were thinking about building a new port there, multimodal port, and then they'd have to get this railroad running that's been there for over 100 years and
now
get to the port.
Now
so there's a lot of prospects going on, and it's to do with a lot of different things,
Now,
and I do research every day.
Now, I did a live stream talking about it because they're trying to turn that track into a trail. They're trying to.
Well, yeah, they got this state senator to pass this bogus legislation to eliminate the rail line and put in they call it
the Great Redwood Trail.
Rails to trails is what they do. But the thing that's stopping them is that they're going to have to come up with probably just as much money to build a trail there as if they just went and put in the rail line.
Yeah, and the thing is that it is middle of nowhere, and the Eel River, they're saying that they don't want to track back at dirt because it will pollute the Eel River. That thing already polluted.
Here's the situation. I talked to this woman over here in Eureka. She's some kind of environmental group, and they're against they got a bunch of people over there against revitalizing the rail line or repairing it, and the reason is, because I was checking it for years I've been checking it on Google Earth, you know what I mean, because there's a lot of landslides and stuff. I'm very familiar with this area.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents, grandfather, we used to go on the train up there. They had steam trains up to Dos Rios. And the thing about it is that there's a lot of big, huge marijuana farms all along the airway.
That's what I'm saying, because I'm about to say that because that's up from that it polluted the river. Am I right?
If you look on the Google Earth, you'll see that every place there's a big marijuana structure, one of these, like a greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
It'll look like a big white building from the satellite. Every place, it's right on the edge of the river, and they have big, huge pipes running into the river and taking water out of the river.
Mm-hmm.
So they are polluting like heck into the river. And you could see when there's a pipe coming out of the marijuana grove.
Yeah, and
when you see the pipes coming out of the marijuana grove, you can see what's going into the river for miles.
Yeah, and I was saying about it.
The Eel River, there's the North Fork and the South Fork of the Eel River, is a very pristine river. There's hardly anybody living along it, okay? And there aren't any cities along the railroad. And they're trying to claim that these people that are against the railroad, they are not trying to be against the railroad for what they're claiming. They're being against the railroad because they don't want it to stop the marijuana grows.
Because what they're doing
I was over in Fort Bragg, which is a city along the coast over there, and I was watching their local television. And these marijuana growers have total control over the city officials. Boy, they're getting up in their city council meetings and telling them what to do.
Heck.
The sheriff is, the sheriff of these counties like Mendocino and Humboldt County, they want to protect the marijuana grove. Not over here too much where I live, but over there, yeah, they're protecting them. The federal government was coming in there with their helicopters, and stuff, their black helicopters or whatever you call them, and trying to stop it. But man, the sheriff was trying to protect them.
You know what I hate to say what they're doing is a federal crime.
Well, it's a federal crime, but it's not even a federal crime; it's a state crime. But they're just actually protecting these marijuana grows.
And
that's why it's kind of dangerous, because if I went over there, there's this one area where I'm real interested in. It's called Fort Seward, and I've been there along the railroad, and people just disappeared over there. They just kind of like they don't even find their bodies over there. Right? We have Mexican drug cartels over here. Okay, it's real dangerous. I used to love to go up in the mountains here, but I don't dare do it anymore because all these Mexican drug cartels are controlling all the land up in the mountain areas around here.
Heck, why they need is send government troops in, and get that stuff out of there. Kick the people running Eureka and the county out. Arrest them for illegal stuff.
Yeah, well, I know what it is stopping the railroad, and the thing about it is, the thing that could overcome that is to get the port of Eureka to say they want to develop that port, because the ships are backed up in LA and Oakland.
We brought it up too.
The other two big ports in California is Oakland and LA, and say that they want to develop their port to take over the backlog of all the lined up ships in these other ports, and then get the railroad to run to Eureka. And I don't think the marijuana grows are going to have any ability to stop it.
And saying the track, like the route already said, the only problem is you're probably going to have people who are probably going to try to build houses and a development on purpose to stop it from happening.
No, they've been ripping out the tracks. Somebody's been stealing the track, for salvage. I saw that on the satellite pictures, some places where the tracks are missing. But anyway, the thing about the marijuana grows is that it's that environmentalist, I think it's the Save the Trinity River, some group like that. That woman that I talked to, she was a joke. We can't have the railroad because it's pollute. But boy, she never even mentioned the marijuana grows polluting. You could see the pollution from the marijuana farms going into the river.
Exactly.
It's leaving a big trail of like a green, I don't know what you call it, a green trail of whatever liquid it is that they're pumping into the river. And that's real pollution, not compared to the railroad. And then as far as the railroad goes, they should consider the zero emission if that railroad was electrified, as opposed to banning diesel trucks. I mean, the
auto train about to go by.
The highway they built through the virgin redwoods over here has killed off all the huge, big, beautiful redwood trees along the highway. It's killed them off.
Funny thing is, you should have brought all of that up in front of them. If you had brought all of that up, they would have probably shut their mouth real quick.
What up?
If you brought all
environmentalist hippies and beatniks, we used to call them way back in the 50s, and they're all growing marijuana, and they're trying to make like they're big environmentalists, but they're not saying a word about polluting the Eel River.
Exactly. They're a bunch of idiots and hypocrites of what they are.
Yeah, and you can't go against them because they have these death squads running around here. People disappearing because they're connected to the Mexican drug cartel.
Mm-hmm.
And they have most of the people working up here in the mountains are not white people. They're either Mexican or Asian or something. So, when we had all the big fires around here last summer, it was burning out all the big. I didn't even know they had some up here by Mount Shasta. We have a place. Actually, we have a city up here called Weed. Isn't that something? They said that all they had to go into these areas where the fire was, so they had to go into these areas where all the marijuana grows were, and this guy came out with a gun and tried to stop the sheriff, and they shot him dead.
Mm-hmm.
So
he had it coming to him. He had it coming.
No, he thought he was trying to protect the weed, but no, he didn't realize that the sheriff he's probably dumb, and he didn't realize who he was going against. Because we have a lot of homeless problem here and a lot of crime because the government here lets out like 500,000 prisoners every year out of parole, and we have a lot of crime here. It's tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
I live near it's like a battlefield here. I have to go out and arm myself to protect myself. I've almost been shot several times out here by these parolees and convicts. So we have a major issue here with crime, and the government letting out all these killers out of prison to come in here and kill people and terrorize them. That's the way it is in the town I live in most of California. And you don't have that problem. When I was in Virginia, they have open carry there, and there was no crime at all over there. Gosh, I was watching the news, and they have not a single report of any crime in Virginia. We have a real problem here with battles of the government is trying to terrorize the populace here they're making big money, millions and millions of dollars. The local government, the county government is making millions and millions of dollars off of bringing these criminals in here that they have all these programs so-called programs that they make money off of them with. So they want to encourage all these people to be let out of Folsom Prison and San Quentin Prison and come in here, and they're murderers. And they're killing people left and right over here. And I almost got shot about this guy came over to my house last week, and I had 8 police cars come out to my house because he was with the M16 rifle, and they were trying to catch him because he was out here shooting, and he wanted me to go outside my house. And
I heard about that. That was all over the news.
Well, maybe not like my house, but it goes on frequently around here. We have people. They thought this was going to be a mass shooting like you hear about on the news. Right?
It was. He killed 14 people.
Yeah, that's in other places, but so what I'm working on right now is catenary, because the government is making a big push for zero emission, but they don't want to recognize electric railroads. They want to talk about electric buses and electric big rig trucks, but they don't want to talk about electric trains. So that's what I'm pushing for. Nobody else is doing it. I'm doing it.
I know.
The government now is supposedly giving, with that infrastructure bill of how many trillion of dollars, that they're supposed to be spending money on high-speed rail and railroads and zero emissions. So I want to see if they'll give me the money for putting in the catenary here, and I can maybe talk to the Union Pacific to see if they'll go along with it. See, Union Pacific, I talked to them about 10 years ago or more about running a rail line parallel to on their right of way next to the freight tracks, okay? And they said, yeah, they weren't opposed to it then. When I talked to this one woman, she said, yeah, we'll lease part of our right of way where you can run another rail over, or even lease the rail. See, then we have two big rail lines that run right down the valley here. One on the east side of the valley, one on the west side of the valley. And then there's the one on the coast, and then there's one up in the mountains, which is the BNSF. So we have 2 rail lines here, and there's only one rail line here that runs up to near where I live, where all the freight and Amtrak runs. The other one is hardly ever used. It used to have Amtrak on it, but they switched it over to get it to go through Sacramento. So the one that's hardly used is a natural, and it's straight as an arrow.
Mm-hmm.
flat and straight as an arrow, so you could get up to probably 110 miles an hour. I don't think I'd go faster than that. But you don't need grade separation because when you come to the city, you just slow down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about it is, though, when I found out that the Caltrans built this overpass out here, which is a 4-lane highway overpass for $5.7 million, I realized that you could probably build an overpass over a railroad, which is only 100-foot distance from one side of the right way to the other. You could build a 2-lane road over that for probably half as much as the 5.7.
True.
Which means that I could go from our city to Sacramento, which is about 165 miles, for just maybe a billion or so dollars, or maybe less.
Did it?
At 5.7 million, but we have a lot of roads to cross in rural areas.
Well,
the thing about it is that it's not anywhere near what the high-speed rail is spending to have grade separation. Okay?
I know. Well,
what you do is you follow the Union Pacific all the way from where I live, all the way down to Bakersfield, and it's straighter, less circuitous, and shorter distance than what the high-speed rail line is. The high-speed rail line is following the BNSF, which was crazy to have the San Joaquins run on it because it bypasses several cities. It's not straight, and it's the high-speed rail is following that right away, and it's very circuitous. A lot of turns, and I don't agree with going at 220 miles an hour with all these turns. Okay, and there's a lot of big cities that the Union Pacific, the former Southern Pacific, owned that right away, and well, it goes through some big cities like Visalia and stuff. So the high-speed rail doesn't do that. And then I'm trying to get them to admit that they want to have buses feeding the high-speed rail and get rid of the railroad, the local trains, which is insane in my opinion, totally insane. They want everybody to ride buses to get to the high-speed rail station. That's crazy.
I know ridiculous. People are dirty, and sometimes it takes having the guts to do it. But I gotta get ready to end the live stream real soon because it's already 12:36 a.m. here.
Okay.
So I gotta get ready for bed.
Okay, you go to bed. It's not that late here. It's only about 9 o'clock.
All right. Well.
So, have a nice night and take care.
Hey, later, man. Have a night.
Say hello to your wife for me.
Oh, she right there.
All right. Have a pleasant evening. Goodbye.
Yeah, have a night, man.
Bye.
All right. Well, yeah. What he said is true. That I'm not going to lie about. He said all of that is true, but yeah. And it mind created to think about it. But hopefully, I hope you guys find what we talked about interesting, and I hope you guys use it when you are planning to talk and get in. But yeah. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the live stream. Please like and subscribe. And I hope you guys enjoyed everything. So, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.